In Chapter 1, 8-year-old Dima lives with his family in a small farmhouse during a stormy night. While washing dishes, he hears the barn doors slam open, though no one else notices. When his brother Pyotr teases him about being afraid of ghosts, Dima insists on going outside to prove his courage. Crossing the dark yard, he finds the barn doors broken and his dog, Molnia, terrified. Inside the barn, Dima discovers a monstrous winged creature feeding on blood. As it attacks, a mysterious woman enters, subduing the beast using wind, revealing herself as a Grisha Squalor, not a saint as Dima first believed. She chains the creature, warns Dima to stay silent, and pays him silver before leaving with her captive in a waiting coach. As she departs, Dima overhears the coachman call the monster Your Highness, hinting at a darker, hidden truth behind the creature's identity. In Chapter 2, Zoya travels through the Ravkan countryside in a coach with the chained King Nikolai, who has once again transformed into a winged monster during the night. She restrains and retrieves him from a farm before he harms anyone. When he returns to human form, the two discuss his worsening condition, born from the Darkling's lingering power, and their efforts to conceal it. They've hidden his transformations from the public for 6 months using chains and sedatives to prevent disaster. On their journey from Duke Radomov's estate, they cross a miraculous bridge made of bone and gristle, one of several strange phenomena emerging across Ravka. Zoya suspects Grisha using the drug Yurdaparem, while Nikolai fears it's connected to his curse. As they maintain the illusion of a romantic tryst to avoid suspicion, Zoya urges Nikolai to marry for Ravka's stability, but he refuses until he's cured, admitting his growing fear that time is running out. In Chapter 3, Nina Zenik, working undercover in Fjorda as Mila Yandersdat, poses as a fish cannery worker while secretly aiding Grisha refugees through King Nikolai's Hringsa network. When word arrives that new fugitives have reached the safe house, she joins her allies, Adric and Leonie, to forge documents and escort them to the ship Asterisk Verstoten Asterisk. They discover 3 refugees are missing, possibly captured, and must improvise by passing Nina off as one man's wife. At the harbor, corrupt Captain Berger and his men inspect their papers, recognize Nina, and attempt to arrest them. Using her corrupted Heartrender powers, Nina kills Berger and his guards, securing the fugitives' escape but exposing their operation. As they flee, Adric insists they relocate, while Nina, haunted by Matthias's death and guided by strange whispers, vows to investigate missing girls near Gavala, believing the disappearances may be linked to Dark Grisha activity. In Chapter 4, Nikolai leaves Ivets with Tolya and travels to Count Kirigan's estate, the Gilded Bog, a pleasure palace secretly built as a military research base. Beneath its decadent exterior lies an underground network of laboratories, where Ravka's best fabricators and scientists, known as the Nolniki, develop advanced weapons, aircraft, and submersibles for the nation's defense. Nikolai meets Kirigan, whose public role as a frivolous aristocrat conceals his loyalty to the crown, then descends with Tolya into the vast hidden bunker. There, Nikolai inspects the progress of the Izmarsya, his experimental underwater fleet, and discusses new missile technology with David Kostik and Nadia Jabin. Despite promising results, Ravka faces resource shortages and growing threats from Fjorda. Nikolai orders David and Nadia back to Osa Alta to rejoin Genya and Tamar, secretly planning to create a false prototype for a strategic deception, his next move in protecting Ravka's fragile future. In Chapter 5, Nina, Adric, and Leonie travel to Gavale to investigate strange military activity and a factory that has polluted the river. Disguised as merchants, they lodge at a nearby convent run by the Well Mother, who forbids discussion about the contamination. The group explores the mountain and confirms the factory, once a fort, is heavily guarded and active. While gathering water samples, they encounter a group of novitiates disguised as Fjordan soldiers. Leonie calms a spooked horse and saves one girl, earning their silence. Later, driven by the haunting whispers in her mind, Nina ventures alone toward the factory's eastern side and senses something dark beneath the surface. Using her altered Grisha power, she reaches into the currents of death and realizes the whispers belong to hundreds of murdered women buried around the fort. The factory isn't just a military site, it's built on a mass grave. In Chapter 6, Nikolai returns to Osa Alta through secret tunnels with Tolya, David, and Nadia, learning that zealots are gathering outside the city. At the Little Palace, he meets with Zoya, Genya, Tamar, and David to discuss dire news. Kerch merchants have discovered Ravka's secret submarine fleet and want to buy the plans, But if Ravka cooperates, they'll lose Zemeni support, and the Zemeni grow the Jurda needed to create an antidote to Perem. Worse, Nikolai's transformations into a monster are increasing, suggesting the Darkling's Mertzost is strengthening. Unable to risk travel or public exposure, Nikolai devises a bold plan: host an international festival to distract enemies and stage his apparent health. Zoya insists he also begin courting brides to secure Ravka's future. That night, as Zoya chains him to his bed before the transformation returns, they reflect on the nature of power, sacrifice, and the thin wall separating humanity from monstrosity. In Chapter 7, Zoya wakes before dawn to coordinate Second Army matters and learns of Kurgud attacks and ruthenium alloy plating. She and Tamar resolve to trace shipments to locate Shu Kurgud factories. Zoya visits Nikolai at the Grand Palace, unshackles him, and they ride to confront pilgrims worshipping the Darkling. Nikolai pacifies their leader Yuri Vedinin and brings him to the palace despite Apparat objections. Later, Zoya discovers Nikolai has escaped his chains and flown to Balakarev. She tracks him with Tolya and Tamar to Balakarev, where they find him perched on the bell tower, and she fights the monstrous transformed Nikolai. The creature injures Zoya, but Tamar and Tolya subdue it and render Nikolai unconscious. Zoya concludes the palace and the king are no longer secure and vows to find a cure to save Ravka. She orders investigation into ruthenium supply and readies the Second Army at once. In Chapter 8, Nina and Edric leave Leonie at the convent and journey to bury Matthias's body near a quiet riverbank. Along the way, they reflect on Zoya's leadership, their past, and the lingering effects of grief and guilt. Nina recalls her time in the foundling home and her discovery of her Grisha power. At the chosen burial site, Nina digs Matthias's grave alone, determined to give him the farewell he deserves. As she lays him to rest, she offers toffees, tulip petals, and a eulogy honoring his bravery, sacrifice, and goodness. After Adric departs, Nina breaks down in grief, finally accepting that the voice of Matthias she had clung to was only in her mind. In that silence, she begins to hear a clearer call from the dead girls buried near the factory, demanding justice. The chapter ends with Nina choosing to let go of Matthias and embrace the mission the dead have called her to. In Chapter 9, Nikolai and his advisors debate whether to cancel the upcoming royal festivities due to his recent monstrous transformation. Zoya is furious and hurt by his near-fatal attack. Amid tension, Nikolai introduces Yuri, a fervent monk devoted to the Darkling. Though met with skepticism, Yuri maps out a pattern of alleged miracles across Ravka, all radiating from the former Shadowfold. He believes these signs herald the return of saints, possibly even the Darkling. Though dubious, Nikolai sees strategic value in Yuri's knowledge and proposes a disguised pilgrimage to investigate the miracle sites, hoping to understand the force inside him and reconnect with the Ravkan people. He suspects the demon may be drawn to the fold, and possibly a forgotten purification ritual called the Obispaya could hold answers. Despite Zoya and Genya's concern, Nikolai is determined to risk everything to save Ravka, resist the darkness within, and reclaim control of his fate. In Chapter 10, Nina becomes lost in a brutal snowstorm after leaving Matthias's grave and unknowingly circles back to it. Surrounded by wolves, some sickened and aggressive, she kills several but is injured in the fight. Poisoned and weakened, she's rescued by a massive white wolf she recognizes as Trestle, Matthias's companion. Before she can connect with him, a girl from the convent, Hana, arrives and scares Trestle off. A fight erupts, and Nina discovers Hana has Heartrender abilities but lacks control. Realizing they're both Grisha, they form a fragile truce and ride to a remote hunting lodge. To avoid suspicion from the men inside, Nina poses as a wealthy bride-to-be and convinces them she and Inger Traurhana are valuable guests. As the two bond over shared frustration with gender roles and hidden power, Nina uses a false name, Mila, and decides to keep watch while Hana rests. For the first time in months, Nina finds a glimmer of warmth in new companionship. In Chapter 11, Zoya oversees final preparations for Nikolai's secret pilgrimage to Ravka's miracle sites, designed to boost public morale and uncover a ritual, Obispaya, that might purge the demon within him. Zoya struggles with fear and distrust, particularly toward Yuri, the monk obsessed with sanctifying the Darkling. Genya and David provide Zoya with potent sedatives and stimulants to manage Nikolai's transformations on the road. As they travel, Nikolai charms nobility and commoners alike while Yuri researches the Obispaya. Zoya reflects on Nikolai's political genius and the resistance Ravka's reforms face. At their final stop before the fold, they visit a cathedral where a supposed miracle, roses bursting from a saint's statue, is witnessed. The sight unnerves Zoya, and when she sees black veins pulse on Nikolai's wrist, she realizes the demon is stirring. As Yuri recounts St. Lizabetta's martyrdom, a massive creature suddenly attacks, destroying the statue and seizing Zoya into the sky. In Chapter 12, Zoya is abducted by a Shu Kurgut soldier with mechanical wings. Another Kurgut attacks, targeting Tamar and Tolya with a net. Nikolai intervenes, killing the attacker, while Zoya disables hers midair with lightning. As they plummet, Nikolai's monster form emerges, saving her before reverting. Shaken, Zoya kills her attacker with a thunderous strike, drawing concern from Nikolai. Yuri, witnessing the transformation, is stunned, but the group stages the scene to hide the Kurgut attack. Later, in private, Nikolai reveals to Yuri the truth about the Darkling's curse and his struggle with the monster. He manipulates Yuri's zeal, claiming the monk must complete the Darkling's martyrdom. Convinced, Yuri agrees to help, believing fate guides them. As they prepare to head to the fold for the Obisbaya ritual, Nikolai confides in Zoya, who warns that if the Darkling's consciousness survives within him, she will end him. Nikolai accepts her vow, determined to protect Ravka, whatever the cost. In Chapter 13, Nina and Hana grow closer during a night of shared watch and bonding. Hana reveals her inner conflict over her heartrender powers and societal expectations. Nina encourages her to accept her Grisha identity and offers secret training under the guise of Zemeni language lessons, gaining the well-mother's approval. Meanwhile, Leonie falls ill after testing polluted water samples near the convent, likely from toxins at the nearby factory. She recovers with Nina and Adric's help, but reports a novitiate has died, likely from contaminated water. Nina confirms the area is full of unmarked graves, and the dead are calling to her for help. Convinced of deeper corruption, she seeks Hana's help to infiltrate the factory. Their growing trust reveals Hana's desire for freedom, while Nina remains focused on justice for the murdered women. Despite Adric's caution, Nina's infiltration plan is in motion, driven by vengeance and the dead's urgent whispers. In Chapter 14, Zoya, Nikolai, Tamar, Tolya, and Yuri arrive in Krybyrsk, now a fated town since the Fold's destruction. While Nikolai and Zoya handle Grisha security and rumors of a Shu defector, they also plan a covert mission to investigate the Fold. Disguised, they travel by skiff across the barren unsea and discover a black stone circle worshipped by pilgrims of the Darkling, who call him the Starless Saint. Zoya clashes with their devotion, angered by their reverence and refusal to honor the true victims of the war. Tensions rise until she unleashes a sandstorm, creating darkness and frightening the pilgrims. Suddenly, Zoya, Nikolai, and Yuri are transported to a strange realm. The camp has vanished, their companions are gone, and a massive palace looms before them. As dark creatures shriek and advance, Nikolai draws his weapons. Yuri claims it's a miracle, but Nikolai realizes they've walked into a trap. In Chapter 15, Nikolai, Zoya, and Yuri are attacked by a swarm of bees, a grotesque shifting beast, and a massive dragon within the mysterious realm they entered from the Fold. As Zoya uses her wind powers to protect them, Nikolai fires his revolvers, but the creatures are unharmed. The dragon unleashes fire, but Zoya shields them with air. When she disrupts the flames by removing their oxygen, the dragon retaliates with deadly blue fire. Zoya counters with ice, exhausting herself. Surrounded by faceless sand soldiers and outmatched, Nikolai prepares to surrender. Zoya resists, fighting until she collapses, her amplifier shattered. As the dragon lands, it reveals intelligence and speaks, calling Nikolai the Boy King. The dragon transforms into Sanct Eurus, joined by a woman named Elizaveta, revealed to be the martyr Saint Lizabetta. The grotesque remains unnamed. Yuri, overcome with devotion, praises them. The saints tell the group it's time for explanations. In Chapter 16, Isaac Andreev, a palace guard once helped by Nikolai, is being magically tailored by Genya to impersonate the missing king. The Grisha triumvirate reveals that Nikolai and Zoya vanished during their pilgrimage, and to maintain political stability, Isaac must pose as Nikolai for the upcoming bride's selection and intelligence mission. Though initially overwhelmed, Isaac recalls Nikolai's kindness and agrees. Genya alters his appearance while Tamar, Tolya, and David help him study Nikolai's mannerisms. The team debates the risks, including exposure by the apparat, but concludes the deception is necessary. Isaac struggles to embody Nikolai's charisma, but eventually delivers a convincing performance, rekindling their hope. Despite fears of treason and failure, they plan to stage the king's return, claiming Zoya stayed behind. Isaac's impersonation is their only option to buy time and protect Ravka until Nikolai can be found, or until a new strategy emerges. In Chapter 17, Nikolai, Zoya, and Yuri are transported by sand to a vast, lifeless palace in a strange realm within the Shadowfold. There they meet the legendary saints, Elizaveta, Juris, and Grigori, ancient Grisha trapped in this place since the Darkling created the Fold. They reveal that they were bound to this holy site when the Darkling's use of Mertzos disrupted natural laws. His power still lingers, now residing within Nikolai, preventing the saints' release. To destroy it, they propose the Obisbaya, a ritual where Nikolai must summon and kill the demon inside him using the ancient Thornwood. If he fails, the thorns will burn him alive. The ritual is dangerous and may destabilize Ravka, but the saints long to be mortal again. Zoya suspects their motives, but Nikolai accepts the risk. He knows the monster inside him is growing stronger, and time is running out. "When do we begin?" he asks. In Chapter 18, Nina secretly follows the Spring Maidens from the convent to the old fort under the cover of night, using a hidden set of clothes and her knowledge of the terrain. Posing as a novitiate, she infiltrates the munitions factory and discovers that one wing of the abandoned structure hides a horrifying truth. Grisha girls, many addicted to jur de parem, are being kept alive to bear children, infants born addicted to the drug. These babies are being raised as future Grisha slaves. The women are dosed regularly and controlled without restraints, suggesting a new, modified version of parem. Nina recognizes some victims, confirming a connection to earlier disappearances. When her presence triggers an alarm, she escapes through a window, races back to the convent, and narrowly avoids exposure thanks to Hana, who lies to protect her. Nina now knows she's found her true mission, but revealing the truth could endanger them all. In Chapter 19, Zoya and Nikolai settle uneasily into their new chambers in the Saint's Palace, a ghostly place shaped entirely from bone-colored sand. Though meant to rest, Zoya remains distrustful of the saints and questions the cost of their promised cure. She's still grieving the loss of her amplifier and struggling with vulnerability. Juris interrupts and demands she begin her training, claiming that she, like Nikolai, has something vital to learn. As Juris pushes her physically and mentally, Zoya resists but becomes increasingly curious about the ancient magic he speaks of, Grisha power unbound by modern limitations. During a brutal sparring session, Zoya taps into something deeper than summoning, a storm that lives within her. She shatters Juris' blade with raw power and realizes there is more to her than she believed. Juris reveals this is only the beginning. Zoya, despite her pain, steps forward, ready to embrace this dangerous path to power. In Chapter 20, Adric rebukes Nina for infiltrating the factory, warning she jeopardized the Hringsa mission and compromised security. Nina defends her actions, insisting the Grisha girls can still be saved and that the Fjerdans are testing a new variant of parem. Leonie, moved by Nina's resolve and her own past, sides with her, declaring the mission must include rescuing the girls. Adric reluctantly agrees, demanding a plan. Nina proposes a bold move: rescue the women in daylight to avoid suspicion. Later, a novitiate confirms that Hana has secretly used her Grisha healing power to help people denied aid by the convent. Nina realizes Hana is a healer unaware of her gift. When Hana confronts Nina about the factory, Nina tells a partial truth, that her sister was captured and taken there. Hana, shaken by memories of missing women, finally believes her. Nina urges her to act. Save them all. In Chapter 21, Isaac impersonates King Nikolai during a diplomatic reception, welcoming foreign delegations to Ravka. Though outwardly calm, Isaac is overwhelmed by the pressure and complexities of royal etiquette. He meets Princess Eri of Shuhan and her elite guard, wondering which Tavgarad soldier may be planning to defect. The event proceeds with formalities and gifts, but Isaac's nervous missteps, including standing aside for the Shu princess out of habit, raise suspicions about the king's behavior. Despite a tense moment with the Fjordan ambassador questioning Nina Zenek's whereabouts, Genya smooths things over. The evening ends with a Ravkan feast, and Isaac survives without incident. However, as he returns to the royal chambers, Tolia detects poison gas, arsine, rigged at the door. The attempt on Isaac's life confirms the deception is convincing, and that someone wants the king dead, escalating the danger surrounding the diplomatic summit and the fragile masquerade. In Chapter 22, Nikolai struggles with time, fatigue, and the pull of the monster inside him while trapped in the Saint's realm. Grigori, the ancient bodymaker, visits and shares his tragic past of using Merzos to create unnatural life, hinting that the origins of the corporality may lie with him. He warns that Perem changed Grisha power forever, and that the Fold's existence, Nikolai's demon, and Grisha magic are all intertwined. Later, Nikolai, Yuri, and Zoya are summoned to Elizaveta's spire to learn about the ritual. The ritual will force Nikolai to summon the monster and drive a thorn through both of their hearts to separate them. Elizaveta traps Zoya in amber to provoke the monster's emergence. Enraged, Nikolai transforms, breaks free, and regains control just before harming Zoya. He reclaims his identity and subdues the beast within. Though victorious this time, he fears next time he may not win the same battle. In Chapter 23, Isaac continues impersonating King Nikolai during diplomatic events, enduring public scrutiny and pressure. Genya cleverly deflects Fjerdin's suspicion by claiming Grisha students are on field study while secretly evacuating them for safety. During a lake outing, a Kerch girl accidentally falls into the water. Though Isaac can't swim, he jumps in to maintain Nikolai's heroic image. Nadia and other Grisha rescue both Isaac and the girl, turning the incident into a publicity win. Later, Isaac accidentally meets Princess Eri in the conservatory and uses the moment to gain her trust. They bond over their shared discomfort with royal life. Eri hints the girl's plunge was staged and confesses she too was pressured to do the same. Isaac subtly probes for Tavgarad intelligence but gains little, though their connection strengthens. Meanwhile, Genya and Tamar confirm the Fjerdins were behind the gas attack, while the Kerch attempt to steal blueprints, setting the stage for a demonstration at the Gilded Bog. In Chapter 24, Nina, Leonie, and Adric plan to rescue the women and infants from the factory, knowing the mission risks their lives. They intend to cause a fire using explosives as a distraction while escaping undetected. Leonie hesitates at drugging the women for safe transport, but Nina argues it's necessary due to their Perem addiction. Nina spots Trassel herding wolves away from the poisoned river, a silent act of protection. Back at the convent, Nina resumes language lessons with Hana, but their bond is tested when Hana's father, Commander Jarl Brum, arrives. Nina, terrified but tailored beyond recognition, performs the role of demure widow Mila Jandersdatt and fools Brum barely. The well-mother grows suspicious of Nina's intentions, but misinterprets them. Hana confronts Nina about her submissive act, leading to emotional honesty between them. Nina confirms she's planning a mission and asks for Hana's help to become exactly what Brum expects, so they can destroy everything he built. In Chapter 25, Zoya continues to act as bait during Nikolai's training with Elizaveta to summon the monster, while secretly advancing her own lessons with Juris. Her power grows, and she begins to question the boundaries of Grisha magic, learning that true mastery might mean controlling all elements, not just air. Elizaveta hints at her ancient connection to the Darkling, and urges Zoya to consider the depth of the king's affection for her. Later, Juris forces Zoya to confront her past by flying her over the ruins of Novokhribirsk, triggering painful memories of her childhood, her Aunt Liliana's sacrifice, and her own disillusionment with the Darkling. Through grief and self-reckoning, Zoya finally accesses her full emotional power, unlocking a deeper connection to the universe and Grisha magic. Juris affirms she is the key to restoring what the Grisha were meant to be, if she is strong enough to open the door between past and future. In Chapter 26, Isaac shares intelligence from Princess Eri with Tamar and Tolya, confirming that one of the Tavgarad guards, Mayu Kirkat, may be the defector. Her twin brother is missing, possibly a victim of the Shuz Kurgid program, turning soldiers into emotionless weapons. Isaac is then sent to meet with Kerch merchant Hiram Schenk for a weapons demonstration at Count Kirigan's estate. While attempting to stay in character as King Nikolai, Isaac nervously introduces the Izmarzya, an experimental Ravkan submarine. The test quickly escalates when it begins destroying nearby ships and accidentally crashes into their own sailboat. As chaos erupts and the submarine explodes, the group narrowly escapes. Back at the palace, Isaac learns the entire event was orchestrated to shock the Kerch into awe. His panic had been real, but exactly what they needed. The mission is deemed a success, though Isaac, soaked and exhausted, reflects on how little control he truly has. In chapter 27, Nikolai and Zoya spend the night before the ritual together in the fold, reflecting on what may come. Though Elizaveta urged delay, Nikolai insists on proceeding, aware the monster inside him grows stronger daily. He gives Zoya a royal decree naming her Ravka's protector and commander of both armies in case he doesn't survive. Their conversation turns personal, and Zoya shares how she earned her amplifier. As a girl, she defied the Darkling's orders to free tiger cubs and survived a brutal attack from a male white tiger. Killing it by accident, she claimed the amplifier's teeth but bore deep scars. Her actions displeased the Darkling, who warned her that power could never make her loved. Zoya reveals she sought strength to never feel helpless again. Nikolai sees her fully for her strength, scars, and sacrifice, and knows she is the leader Ravka needs, even as he prepares to face death in the morning. In chapter 28, Nina endures a tense dinner with Jarl Brum, his daughter Hanna, and herself in disguise as Mila. Brum pressures Hanna to abandon her interests and return to traditional Fjordan expectations, ignoring her attempts to speak of her studies. Nina excuses herself during the argument to search Brum's coat, stealing a wax imprint of his signet ring and discovering a letter referencing the little Lantsov and Vadik Demidov. After Brum departs, Nina and Hanna begin the next stage of their plan, infiltrating the munitions factory. To do so, Hanna must disguise herself as a Fjordan soldier. Nina coaches her through tailoring her face, squaring her jaw, broadening her brow and nose, and cutting her long hair. The transformation is emotional for Hanna, who reflects on how different life might have been if she'd been born male. Nina comforts her, reaffirming her worth. Hanna completes the transformation, now appearing as a convincing young man ready for the mission ahead. In chapter 29, Isaac continues impersonating King Nikolai during high-stakes trade negotiations with Kerch, Kalish, and Zemeni delegates. Relying on Trade Minister Ulyashin to lead, Isaac survives the meeting, but is cornered by Hiram Schenk, who demands a working prototype of Ravka's submersible weapon. The Kerch see through the staged demonstration and threaten economic retaliation. Meanwhile, Tamar and Tolya attempt to identify Mayu Kirkat as the Shu defector, but gain little intel. Isaac distracts the Shu princess Eri with sparring, and she reveals surprising sword skill and warmth. A private dinner is arranged between Isaac and Eri, offering Tamar more chances to question the Tavgarad. That night, the inner circle receives dire news. Fjerda plans to invade Ravka, backing a pretender named Vadik Demidov, who claims to be Nikolai's cousin and heir. As Isaac bonds with Eri during dinner, dreaming of peace, war looms, and he realizes his role may become permanent if the real king never returns. In chapter 30, Nikolai, Zoya, and Yuri stand on the sands of the Shadowfold to attempt an ancient ritual meant to purge the monster from Nikolai's body. As Elizaveta weaves a powerful thornwood thicket around them, sealing Zoya in a golden sphere of sap, Yuri begins chanting sacred Ravkan verses. The monster awakens inside Nikolai, and he grapples with his identity and the dark voice within. Ultimately, he chooses to face the truth of his brokenness and drives a magical thorn into his own heart, forcing the demon out. But Elizaveta betrays them. Her goal is not to free Nikolai, but to resurrect the Darkling using the monster as a vessel. Bound and impaled by thorns, Nikolai is helpless as Yuri prepares to transfer the thorn into the Darkling's corpse. At the last moment, Nikolai fully embraces his monstrous self, abandoning the illusion of the perfect king, and transforms, launching himself at Yuri to stop the resurrection. In chapter 31, Nina, Hanna, Adric, and Leonie execute their high-risk rescue mission at the Fjordan munitions factory. Disguised in stolen uniforms and forged papers bearing Brum's stolen seal, they pass the checkpoint and infiltrate the factory. Inside, Nina and Leonie sedate the pregnant Grisha girls to transport them safely. The ward's grim conditions shock the team, especially Hanna, who is devastated to discover her father, Jarl Brum, authorized the abuse. When Brum confronts Leonie, Hanna incapacitates him with a wrench, devastated by his betrayal but unwilling to let him die. Nina sets the explosives while Leonie and Adric secure the girls. When discovered by the well mother and soldiers, Nina calls upon the dead buried around the factory, Grisha girls and women, who rise and exact vengeance. As the team escapes in the wagon, wolves, likely Tressel, eliminate the guards. At the final checkpoint, they are caught and surrounded. Brum has already passed and revoked their authority. The soldiers open the wagon doors, discovering the rescued girls. Nina's plan is falling apart. In Chapter 32, Zoya escapes the golden sapsphere trapping her and races to the palace, desperate to stop Elizaveta and save Nikolai. She finds Juris poisoned, betrayed by Elizaveta with fuel disguised as wine. Dying, Juris tells Zoya she must kill him and wear his scales to gain the power needed to stop Elizaveta. Though grieving and afraid, Zoya accepts her role. With storm power and sword, she kills Juris as he transforms into a dragon and he wounds her in turn, an exchange of power and sacrifice. As his heart stills, her wounds miraculously heal. Determined, she scrapes off his scales and, tapping into new fabricator abilities, forges them into cuffs. When she seals them, Juris' strength floods into her, along with his vast memory. Instead of being consumed, Zoya embraces it. With Juris now within her, she gains the power to confront Elizaveta and save Nikolai, ready to face the battle ahead. In Chapter 33, Nina uses a baby's cries to draw attention at a checkpoint, rousing the local fishermen. Suspicious townspeople demand to see inside the wagon, revealing pregnant Grisha girls being trafficked by Fjordan soldiers. Tension erupts as Nina exposes the military's abuse. Recognition of one imprisoned girl, Tsile, by her brother sparks outrage. As the guards threaten force, explosions rock the mountain. Leonie's sabotage of the factory has begun, but the dam breaks unexpectedly, unleashing a poisoned flood. Leonie and Adric use their powers to split the wave and extract the toxins. Nina harnesses her necromancy to create a towering ash tree from the bones of lost girls, transforming grief into sacred spectacle. The townspeople fall to their knees, believing they've witnessed a divine miracle. Nina publicly praises Adric and Leonie as new saints, signaling her shift from covert resistance to bold revolution. The villagers disarm, awed by the miracle. Nina's war for change has truly begun. In Chapter 34, Zoya arrives at the fold just as Elizaveta begins resurrecting the Darkling using Nikolai and the Shadow Demon. Grigori, trying to shield them, is killed by Elizaveta's insects. Zoya confronts Elizaveta, who offers her power and rule beside the resurrected Darkling, but Zoya rejects it. Instead, she uses Juris' power to battle Elizaveta, freezing and shattering the saint's Thornwood. Zoya then strikes the Darkling's preserved body with lightning, igniting it and disrupting the resurrection. As Elizaveta rages, Zoya retrieves the glowing thorn, reinserts it into the shadow creature, and awakens Nikolai. Following his plea, she removes the real thorn from his chest, nearly killing him. Elizaveta attacks, but Zoya uses her control over the Thornwood's sap to turn its own spikes on her. Elizaveta is impaled by her own creation. Zoya defeats her and collapses, knowing she has finally saved Nikolai and stopped the Darkling for good. In Chapter 35, Nina prepares to leave Gavala with the freed Grisha women and children, knowing Fjordan forces will soon retaliate. Hana confronts her, learning Nina's true identity as a Ravkan spy and the infamous Corpse Witch. Though hurt by Nina's deception, Hana agrees to help stop the Grisha experiments. They form a pact. No more lies. Adric, furious, confronts Nina for rigging the dam explosion and risking innocent lives. Nina defends her actions, insisting that miracles, like the bone ash tree, are how they'll win hearts and minds. She reveals Fjordan intelligence suggesting a threat to King Nikolai's life from someone named Demidov, but admits she withheld the information to focus on saving the Grisha girls. Adric is enraged, but Nina stands firm. She decides to stay behind with Hana to infiltrate Fjorda from within, embracing a new path beyond soldier or spy. Adric departs, warning her she'll be on her own if things go wrong. In Chapter 36, Nikolai and Zoya awaken in the fold after defeating Elizaveta. The Thornwood dies, and Zoya shows signs of transformation, scales and slit pupils, hinting at powers she gained during the battle. They recover Yuri, who remains bound but alive for questioning. As they escape the fold, Nikolai hides the truth. The monster inside him still lingers. Zoya retrieves horses and a healer, and they travel toward Os Alta, learning their actions caused widespread quakes across Ravka. To avoid attention, Zoya disguises them as prisoners. When they arrive at the palace, it's mid-celebration, because a tailored double of Nikolai has taken his place. While sneaking inside, Nikolai discovers his impersonator about to kiss Princess Eri. But to his shock, Nikolai sees a hidden blade in Eri's hand, revealing a deadly assassination attempt. The chapter ends on the brink of violence, with danger now coming not just from within Nikolai, but from within his court. In chapter 37, Isaac, still posing as King Nikolai, sneaks away from his guards to meet Princess Aerie in the palace conservatory. Their private conversation is tender and filled with longing, as Isaac wrestles with his guilt over deceiving her. He nearly confesses the truth but holds back, fearing the political consequences. As they share a quiet, emotional moment, Aerie appears conflicted but responds warmly, even saying she could love him if he weren't a king. Just as Isaac leans in, she suddenly stabs him with a dagger, revealing her true motive. She is not Princess Aerie. She was sent to assassinate the king for her queen, her brother, and her country. As Isaac collapses, bleeding and confused, she kisses him one last time and tells him he never could have been hers, but she would have been his. Then, with guards rushing in, the false Aerie drives the dagger into her own heart, completing the deadly ruse. In chapter 38, Nina, still disguised as Mila Yandersdatt, prepares carefully for a formal dinner with Jarl Brum and his wife Ylva. Brum, grateful for Mila saving his life after the factory explosion, believes Nina's cover story and is no longer suspicious of her. Nina and Hanna had claimed they found him unconscious and pulled him to safety, ensuring his reputation remained intact. Brum's trust secures Nina's access to his powerful political and military connections, key to her long-term plan of infiltrating and dismantling Fjerda from within. Ylva, warm and graceful, credits Nina with positively influencing Hanna, who now appears more refined and socially acceptable. Brum is pleased that Hanna has agreed to seek a husband, believing she's abandoned her rebellious ways. As Brum prepares to host key military generals, including Vadik Demidov, Nina and Hanna play their parts perfectly. But beneath the performance, they remain united in secret rebellion, ready to burn the old regime down from the inside. In chapter 39, Zoya returns to find chaos in the conservatory. Isaac, posing as Nikolai, has been murdered by a Shu assassin who then stabbed herself. Nikolai reveals the real Princess Aerie had been replaced by the assassin to incite war between Ravka, Shu-Han, and Fjerda. The impostor survives, and is identified as the real Princess Aerie, who admits the plan but claims she was promised a peaceful life. Nikolai declares she'll now remain in Ravka, as his queen, to prevent further conflict. Meanwhile, the real Mayu lies injured, possibly having betrayed the Shu to protect her twin brother from the Caregood program. Nikolai honors Isaac's sacrifice and prepares for war with Fjerda and internal threats. Finally, Zoya and Nikolai reveal to their allies that Yuri now hosts the resurrected Darkling, whose soul escaped during the failed ritual. Though Nikolai hopes to use the Darkling's power, Zoya vows patience, ready to destroy him when the time is right.